and do your best at it, because you're going to learn how to be a better person in challenging situations with challenging people. So now when I feel that uncomfortable moment, I'm like, oh, here we go, I'm about to grow. Mess things up 8 out of 10 times, but those 2 out of 10 times is going to be the biggest reward that I could have asked for.
What are you getting after? What seeds are you planting? What are you overcoming? Think big. Think even bigger. Take some risks. God's got your back. Go for it. Don't hold back. Don't ever have regrets in your life. Go fail. Go grow from those things. Live your life.
Your identity is not defined by your successes or your failures.
If you're not happy where you're at, you won't be happy where you're going. Choose to do the things that will make you the person you want to be, that will make you a better person next week and next year.
You're going to have to leave some things you're actually good at behind so that you can find what you're wired for, what you're born for.
Being a world-class entrepreneur is being in every area of life excellent.
It is the little things that are so easy not to do.
The best thing that you can do is assume the best in people.
I want people around the world to believe they can do something great with their life.
If I build the biggest business, but I destroy my physical body and I lose my health, I don't think that's success. While you're on the journey climbing to success, never forget the things that matter most.
What's going on? It's your friend Jonathan, and I'm happy to join you today. The topic of the day is the ever-growing coronavirus and how it's affecting the economy and therefore just about everybody. The initial scare, I think, was more of a health thing, and now people are realizing chances of getting the virus are less than getting hit by lightning. However, the economy, the downchain repercussions and consequences of this virus are having an effect on every single one of us. We got the quarantine going on, which is, it's just a weird thing. But I hope you are able and are doing what you can to take advantage of that time. Many of you who are listening, we've all been affected. My day job has been affected. I'm grateful to still have my job and be working, but everything is being affected because the economy is going through a massive adjustment. I don't even want to call it a correction because we don't even really know what this is yet. Clearly, if you've been following the stock market even a little bit, you're aware of how bad it's gotten. I'm under the impression a lot of this will bounce back. A lot of it will come back, but we have to consider again, there's a lot of people right now, it might even be you who's listening, who is going through a crazy time because there's just uncertainty to the 10th degree, to the 10th power. It's really an interesting, keep doing things that are routine as much as possible, because that will help you to be strong for those you need to be strong for, including yourself, and to recognize that this too will pass. But I'm not just going to sit here and pretend that everything's great, because that wouldn't be fair. So I just want you to know, feel free to jump onto the Heart Healthy Hustle Facebook group. Jump over to the Instagram page. I'm doing on a lighter note, for the next 30 days, I'm going to be sharing a minute or so book recommendation. Yeah, guys, it's March 23rd, 2020, and I'm excited to share today's episode with you. I had mentioned it last week's episode briefly. This is with Ruben Garcia. Very excited. This was recorded probably right about a week or so before the coronavirus really broke out in the news, and so nothing major though, different. So I just really enjoyed hosting Ruben, and his energy levels were amazing. A great dude, really cool person, and amazing conversation that came from us doing an interview. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope it encourages you, kind of gets your mind off of things, get your mind hopefully calibrated and oriented around capitalizing and making opportunities from hard, difficult, challenging, turbulent times. Without further ado, let's jump into today's episode. Today we're joined with Ruben Garcia. So Ruben, say what's up to the audience.
What's up, everybody?
Bringing the heat today. We're already into 2020. How do you feel about that?
Dude, stoked. We're already breaking all-time records, so I'm stoked to see what 2020 has to bring.
Ruben, go ahead and share with the audience what you're about, a little bit of your background.
Real quick in the background. So I used to work with UPS, was there for like 12 years, decided that that wasn't going to be the spot for me. And a few people said that, you'd be really good at sales. So I started looking into all these sales things, which eventually brought me into real estate, and been in the real estate game for 5 years, a little over 5 years. My very first year helped grow a team to do a little over 12 million in production, and our average sales price is 150, 155 at that time. Fast forward about 6 months after that, became the CEO of Keller Williams Fayetteville here in North Carolina, where we closed 1,300 units that year and broke all-time records. It was a lot of fun. Did that for a few years, fast forward a little bit more, and grew a productivity coaching program out of a failed program in that office. We created like $250,000 for that office. Fast forward a little bit more, started growing my own business development business, my own consulting business, and then my sales business. And then we started getting into investing, and then left Keller Williams, went to eXp Realty, which has helped with the systems and stuff that we push. And that brings us here to 5 years past with all of that. And there's sprinkled a little bit more in there, but that's just kind of like the broad stroke of what happened.
That's awesome. I want to share with the audience a bit about how we met. I connected with you on social media. So I saw an Instagram story that was reshared from local real estate investors, because as I spoke to you about, I'm looking at property. Was really excited to connect with you. So Ruben, 30 minutes we talked, and he referred me to some of his go-to lenders in the area. Always looking to build connections, always looking to grow and expand and learn. Ruben, jumping into this interview, I want to kind of set the intention, right? So I'd love to get into really your background, your story, but also to get really tactical. For the reason I brought you on the show, invited you, is because so many people, anytime I have someone who's involved in real estate, especially young professionals who are maybe kind of getting into that first or second property, are really interested to learn about real estate because it's an intimidating topic. It's a topic that you think about and you're like, all right, so bad thing, I heard a good thing. I know it's very possible, but I'm not sure, where do I get started? Or maybe there's people listening, and there are quite a few of you guys out there who are heavily involved in investing, and they really enjoy learning different tips and tricks and just hearing about other people's journey. Can you share with us a bit about how that transition went from UPS, 12 years there, to jumping into your own real estate thing? Because really, when you jump into real estate sales, you're building your own business, right? You have a pipeline, you have to be practicing sales. I'd love to just hear from you directly, star performer here, how you took that UPS experience, turned it for something good, and use that to fuel the energy moving into real estate sales in that initial part of your story.
Absolutely, because when I got into UPS, I was like, "Yep, this is it. This is my life. This is exactly what I'm going to do." Because it matched. It checked all the boxes that society says that you need. Right? Got the pension, 401k, good pay, health insurance. Right? Like good 30-year job. So I thought I was in it to win it, because I started when I was 18. So I guess the older I started to get, I started realizing, there's more out there. Then I started asking the drivers and some of the higher up of, hey, what does this thing look like? Because I was really starting to consider management. And I heard more often than not what it does to the family life, and how it kind of disrupted that, and how you would get in trouble if you wanted to go see your kids at games and all this stuff. And I was like, man, I got to really find another way. Again, was always told that I would be good at sales. And so I was like, man, if I'm going to sell something, it better be the biggest thing that I can sell.
Get that commission.
Got to get the commission. So I started having conversations with people that were in real estate, end up going to school, because going to school here is not many hours. It's a 75-hour course. The barrier to entry is not heavy. Did that, got into real estate, passed the class, failed the exam like 3 times, kept showing up, did it.
You're talking about the real estate exam to become an agent or a broker?
Yep, that's correct. I did that, and once I got my license, I freaked out, because I was like, well, how do you even do this? How do I even talk? I didn't even know how to talk to people. So you're looking for some of the strategies for the people out there that don't know how to talk to people, and they use that as an excuse. One thing that I've done is I went to the largest church in my area, and I became a greeter. And I knew that it would teach me how to talk, how to greet people, how to do small talk. And I knew I was putting myself in a position where people wouldn't make fun of me, because I was at church, right?
Nice hedge there.
Yeah. So I screwed up so many conversations, so many handshakes, and eventually started getting a lot more comfortable with just talking to people. And I would say that's where it really started, was learning how to talk to people and learning how to listen. And it all came from that experience. I did real estate and UPS for 10 months together, found every reason to find time. Now that I'm no longer with UPS, I can say this, right? But I was like, man, within that 10 months, and I was really trying to execute deals, and I was really trying to reach out to people, and I was really trying to make this thing work. Dude, I would go and have to use the bathroom a lot. Like my tummy hurt, you know? And I would go into the stall and I would start knocking out work. It was a grind in those 10 months to really lift it up to where I could leave UPS and I could do real estate full time and make my own way in life.
Long story short, Ruben, you've been in real estate, you said 5 years based on the intro, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm throwing up a Instagram.
Nice.
Let's jump into a favorite success quote or a motto. Do you have a quote or phrase that you say to yourself every day?
Yeah. Done is better than perfect has been huge. I don't get stuck on trying to figure out the details about things anymore. That's how I got that CEO position. They told me no. They were looking for more people and all this. And I had other people who were trying to figure out how this CEO position looked. And I just said, I'm the guy, 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 until they let me in.
Did you actually believe that, or did you just have the drive and you wanted it?
Both. I believed it and I had the drive, but I also knew I knew nothing about it. But I didn't care. I didn't want to try to figure it all out. I just knew done was better than perfect. Put me in the seat and I'll make it work. And we broke all-time records. That thinking bigger and always challenging myself to think bigger. 1 is greater than 0. If you have a bunch of stuff in front of you and you're just freaking out, just do one thing. Do one thing every single day to make sure that you're getting closer to your goal. So done is better than perfect, and then 1 is greater than 0.
Done is better than perfect.
Mm-hmm.
That brings me into the power of execution, but also you're a family man, right?
Yeah, I love my family.
Go ahead and share with us a little bit of a day in the life, present day.
Okay.
You know what that looks like, get up,
Yep. I know exactly what that looks like. So I wake up at 4:30 every morning. I'll get up. I'll go to the gym. I'll go ahead and knock out the gym. And then right after that, so I set up the day of the day before. So I already have all the food that I'm going to eat. I already have the clothes that I'm going to wear all picked out the night before. So, and it's already in my Jeep, right? Ready to roll.
I talk about this all the time on the show. It's just hacking your susceptibilities or vulnerabilities. Just make it easy to win.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, if you go look at my closet, I know this is skipping around just a little bit, but if you go look at my closet, you look at my drawer of what I'm going to wear for the day, it's legit, like just in a row. So as soon as I wash clothes, this shirt, it goes to the back end, and it's just a system. Everything's a system to cut this much time back into my life, which I can maximize that time. And then you start creating time by building in these systems. So I'll wake up at 4:30, go to the gym. Right after that, take a shower in the gym, then go to the office. And then when I go to the office, I run what I call a Corvette, which is CVETT. I do this every morning. And because I'm high energy, I can lose focus really quick. If I'm lost in the day, like, oh, what am I supposed to be doing right now? I'll bring it back up, CVETT. And what this is calendar. I'll look at my calendar and see what I need to be doing during the day. Who am I talking to? What do I need to bring? What do I need to print out? Or what do I need to bring up on my computer? Whatever. It's going to help me get focused on what's happening. The V is voicemail. So who called during the day or yesterday that I may have missed? So I'm going to return the voicemail and spam everyone else because I get a lot of crazy calls too. So E is emails. I'm going to go through my emails. What emails came in? Which ones do I need to address? Which ones do I need to pass off? And which ones do I need to spam? CVET. All right, so the T is text messages. I'll go back and look at my text messages. Which ones did I miss? Which ones do I need to reach back out to? And then the last is tasks, which is basically follow-ups. So I'll go into my database and I'll start following up with the people I need to follow up with that day, which I have notes and why I need to follow up with them and everything else. I'll run a Corvette as soon as I get to the office. And then as soon as I do that, usually my meetings, my masterminds, my classes, my workshops, or whatever, starting throughout the day. I like to cut it short, about 3 to 4 days out of the week at 5 o'clock. Then I'm heading home. And that's why I'm a family man.
Awesome. And you have 2 children, right?
Yep, 2 daughters, 14 awesome. And 1 year old. Yeah.
Wow. I want to jump into let people know you a little bit more as a person. Did you always grow up high energy? Were you like a shy kid when you were younger? What did that look like?
Growing up with my friends, I was a straight nerd. We loved aliens, and we, I'd never fit in with, I guess you would say, the cool crowd ever. In middle school, high school. So no, I was never that outgoing person. If I found a friend or two in a class, then that would be my connection with somebody. And in my neighborhood, I would find connections with people, but I never knew how to really friend everyone or friend a good group of people. I really never figured that out until I got into sales.
That's interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that at all. And you, how old are you?
34.
Okay, getting up there in years, man. Whew.
I know, man. I thought I was 33 the other day.
Oh my!
I know. They're like, no, you're 34. I was like, growing.
It's definitely an interesting concept because some people are listening are like, "What? You're so young," and other people are like, "Wow, that's a couple years away for me. I'm not far off." You share. Oh, what was I going to ask you? Oh yeah, your greatest success and your greatest failure at UPS.
Oh, at UPS. So I've never been asked that. So my greatest success, man, I held so many positions, but there was a position that you're in front of the belt and the boxes come down the belt and you're picking your own trailer, meaning you got to know the sort, which is like you got to know all the states and all that good jazz, and you got to throw the right stuff in the right truck. At the same time, you have to pick off smalls, which are like shoebox size and smaller, meaning you got to take them off the belt and put it in this small section. And then you got to also split the belt, which is like pushing everything to the back if it goes to a certain trailer, keeping everything up front if it goes to a certain trailer. At the same time, you're pulling off irregular stuff. You're looking out for next day airs. You're looking out for all that. I would say I was the best at that. I was the best. That's where I got proven by Ruben. That's where I got people would call me Super G for Garcia because everyone called me Garcia. And I would say, man, just killing that job at such a high level that I feel like no one could ever replace me. I would say that was a win because it was such a challenging job. And I made sure that I was going to be the best at it and no one could ever replace me.
Yeah, I love that perspective. What would you say to somebody who may feel stuck? Because you were there for 12 years doing different things. It shocks me, but there's still this attitude, not all the time, but sometimes you talk to friends or somebody you meet, and like, oh yeah, I just hate my job. And no one really admits that right out the gate, but once you kind of connect, they may share it. My perspective, man, has been, I feel so grateful that I have this perspective, which is just kill it, whatever you're doing, even if you don't like it. That will set you up for success in whatever's next and bring whatever's next faster. I've worked fast food. I've worked, landscaping. I've worked pretty much quite a few industries. One was beer delivery. I loved and hated that because you're exercising all day, which is great. I did that as when I went through school, and I was doing that for years. And one of the biggest things I believe is that to get to the next level, you have to exceed the level you're at by outperforming it. And that could be a challenge because a lot of times what happens is those who are with you at that point in time in that position are not thinking that they're going to go to the next level or they don't know how to. So they just see you outperforming everyone. They're like, what in the world's wrong with this cat? You're going to outperform. You're going to leave a good lasting impression helping the company. So I'm wondering if you have any words to add to that to kind of encourage somebody who may be in a job right now where maybe they took it because they're leveraging the income to get to that next point where they're going to jump into Realty full time.
Yeah. If you want to stand out from the rest, and this may or may not be a good or bad thing that I'm about to say, but you have to challenge how the way the systems are set at that moment in that business. Challenge them, break them, create new systems, do whatever it takes, make the system more efficient, more productive, more purposeful, do whatever it takes, right? When it comes to that, and which can be challenging if you don't enjoy it, right? But man, there's a few things that come to mind when I hear that, right? So one is don't complain about what you tolerate. If you're tolerating that job, right? Like, and you show up every single day and you're like, man, I hate this, man, I hate this, man, I hate this, man, I hate this, man. And you're not doing something to make sure that you move out of that position, you need to quit complaining. You're doing nothing but tearing yourself down and everyone else around you, and it becomes boring and it becomes the same conversation that we've all heard, and it's falling on deaf ears. You cannot complain about the things you tolerate. Just like, this is why when I started to realize like this isn't going to be my end game, I started finding how or what it was that could pull me out, or who I needed to become to pull me out of that certain situation. But don't complain. Do not spend energy complaining about what you tolerate. As long as you are using that income, like you said, that capital from the business to make sure that you get out of that position, fine. But make sure you show up to that job every single day and do your best at it, because you're going to learn how to be a better person in challenging situations with challenging people. And I'll say, man, the connections, the network, the relationships that you're going to build there, I promise you, fast forward 5, 10, 15 years from now, you're going to be reaching out to those people, and those people are going to be helping you, or you're going to need their help. So I think one of the things I think I'm going to teach my kids to do is, once they, you know what, and they should be probably starting now, they need to start building a database. The connections of people that they're talking to now, all I want them to do is put a name and number and notes in this database of people, and then a follow-up on when they're going to reach back out to them. If they start now, no matter what business they ever get into in the future, that's going to pay crazy amount of dividends. For us to get started, like me in my 30s, I missed out on so much opportunity, but I am going back to the UPS days and reaching back out to people like that. But I wish I would have started that from the beginning. But going back to it, don't complain about what you tolerate, and don't kill those bridges, those relationships you got going on in those places. You may need them, or they may need you in the future, and it's good that you kept that relationship going.
Very well said. Biggest thing that stood out to me, if I'm a listener, if I'm in that boat right now, let's say I love my job, right? And you just want to kind of build some more optional avenues on the side, so you can just feel that abundant in your options. You know that at the end of the day, you're not trapped anywhere. You hold the power to do so.
100%.
And having that kind of set up, that independence on a side maybe, or even it becomes the main thing you do, but you give it your all on the full-time work, of course. Because there's a lot of people I know who are working full-time, but then you talk to them and they're like, oh yeah, I do this on the weekends, or I work this at the nights, and it's something I'm passionate about. And they just aren't sure maybe how to leverage that into full-time income, or it's just not enough consistent work, which is fine. It's cool to do it. I'm wondering though, how can you, with your experience, right? Did you, and I don't mean like finances particularly, I'm more referring to the expertise, the family background. Like, did you walk into real estate and someone say, hey, Ruben, I'm your uncle. I know how real estate works in North Carolina. I'm going to set you up and just follow these rules. Did you walk in completely blind? How can somebody who is...
Yeah, completely blind. I think for that person that is struggling on trying or doing their best to make it, that side hustle work that maybe pulls them out of a position or becomes so great and they still get to enjoy their full-time job. I think for me, my why, the reason why I wanted out of that situation, my why was bigger than my how. So you'll find people that will talk. Yeah. So you'll find people that talk about like, they can't do this, or they'll find a reason on why it can't happen versus finding a reason on how it can happen. This is why I took dumps 15 times a day at UPS, because I would find these little gaps to make sure that it was going to happen, because my why was bigger than my how. So it didn't dude, I must have got an hour and a half, 2 hours of sleep when I was in that 10-month trying to make that transition every single night, because I worked the nights at UPS, right? And I would have to get off. I'd go get my daughter. I was a single father, so I had to go get her at daycare, bring her back, give her a bath, take a shower. And by that time it was, the next day, basically 1 a.m. or whatever. And then you have to wake up early again and start the whole process all over again. So, but my why was bigger than my how. So I would watch YouTube videos. I would listen to podcasts. I would listen to books. I would, you can make the excuse all day that you don't have a mentor or that you don't have anybody around you to really show you the path, which is bull jive, right? Which is complete bull jive, because if you go to the freaking internet, I could sit Tony Robbins right next to me if I wanted to. I could go to these people who have crushed it in real estate and listen to them and write these things down. There's books out there. And that's what I did. I didn't use the excuse that I had no one around me to help me, like my uncle, like you said, or anybody to bring me to the next position. I said, okay, I don't have anybody. How can I have someone? Boom. And that's, dude, and here's the deal. Like, I was never into books, ever.
Yeah,
never,
yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
But
you became very into books.
I would fall asleep if I read a book. So I have to listen to audio. But either way, I started learning a little bit more about myself. I never made the excuse, oh, I can't read a book because I get bored or whatever. There's another way, only if you allow yourself to see the other way, right? It's change the way you look at things, and the things you look at will change. And that's exactly what I did, man. And
Can you explain that for someone who's like, what the heck does that even mean? Some of the people just were like nodding big because they're like, yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
Explain that though. An example of this for me, I believe, when I started working full time, based on advice from a mentor, I'm speaking very objectively about it. I love the position. I'm grateful for the experience, and I'm still enjoying it. I was on one of my first weeks at the new job training, and I remember standing with, like, we have like these team huddles, right? And I remember standing there and feeling so calm and comfortable and confident because I had just come off of 3.5 years of really doing my own thing. I was so calm and comfortable because I had just published an interview that morning with an up-and-coming singer who is up to like a couple million streams on Spotify, and fastly, a couple years from now, she'll be a very well-known artist. And I just know that, like, I'm fairly certain of it. Let's put it that way. It's something that I was just standing there. And because, like you said, it's because the way you look at, change what you look at, and the way you think what you look at changes, is because I could be standing there afraid, kind of twiddling my thumbs, like, oh, how am I going to fit in here at this new position? And like, I really need this to work out or else. And oh, like, I need to be, you know what I mean? Like, just kind of afraid. Instead, I'm standing there like, I'm good. Like, I just published an interview with an artist, and 5 years from now is going to be known by everybody. I may not get that recognition along the way. That's completely not the goal. However, I know what I'm doing behind the scenes, and I feel real good about it. And it's just this feeling of just empowers you because you are kind of taking control of what you can control and being okay with all the rest.
Yep, exactly. And, you know, that kind of rolls into, I was no longer, though I am no longer afraid, but I love to mess things up. Like, I know that it's going to be a failing forward situation every week of my life. Right?
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I brought on someone into my business 3 or 4 months ago. And as soon as she joined, she was very much a person that wants to make things perfect. And I was like, hey, listen, we're going to break this thing. We're not only going to break this system, we're going to F it up a lot. And if we're not effing it up, we're not doing our job. I want to find the gaps. I want to find the cracks. I want to break this thing. I want to build it back up, right? And every single day we're going to challenge how this system is. And that I guess I have a better relationship with failure than I do with winning, because the more I fail, the more I win. The more I fail, the better the system gets, because I'll make sure that gap gets filled, and it exposes gaps in your business. So I am constantly pushing failing forward. It has been a mantra in my life to go into something, feel uncomfortable about it, fail at it, and make the system better than it was when I first got into it. It's huge. I love that concept, failing forward.
Same. Have you read John Maxwell's book, Fail Forward?
No.
Check that one out.
I need to.
Maybe not though. I mean, that's the whole gist of the book. You know, is fail faster. This is crazy. This is crazy.
Let's do it.
Yo, that fail forward concept you just brought up, it was so interesting. When I interviewed that artist that I just mentioned in what I was just sharing, she mentioned that the only way she got to any kind of success, I was like, how'd you get to, where you're at now? I found her on Discover Weekly on Spotify playlist, which is where Spotify aggregates artists they think you may like based on your past listening.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so I reached out to her, and what she shared, though, in that part of that interview was, she's like, I just fail faster. And she was it was so authentic. She's just like, yeah, I probably just because I'm okay with the failure process and just failing faster.
100%. When I got into real estate, like you said, do you have an uncle or someone to show you the way? No. I almost lost my license my first year because I was screwing up so bad. I was so uncomfortable on the phone and trying to reach out to people and trying to make this thing work. I would walk out of the office so nobody could hear me. It was such an uncomfortable, breaking moment, but I knew, and you start to become attracted to it, that every time you're so uncomfortable, you're almost near shaking and sweating. If you keep moving, that's life testing you to say, like, hey, do you really want it? You say you want it. Do you really want it? Because that right there, that moment where people are shaking and a little bit feared, that moment stops 90% of society. So life's like, cool, you feel comfortable where you're at. You don't get to have what you said you wanted. You don't get to have it because you didn't take the risk. So now when I feel that uncomfortable moment, I'm like, oh, here we go. Here we go. I'm about to grow. And I'm okay. I know that I'm going to mess things up 8 out of 10 times, but those 2 out of 10 times is going to be the biggest reward that I could have asked for by moving forward in that moment or in that situation or in that meeting. But I look forward to being uncomfortable now. That's the green light to say, keep moving. That's life testing you to say, you really want this? Keep moving forward. And as soon as you get past this, I'm going to open another door for you.
Let's get really tactical with real estate. Lessons learned in real estate, fail forward. What else?
Test the norm. Regular brokerages, they have a certain way of doing things. We have been testing the norm ever since I left my last firm and joined this new one. This new one allows us to be a lot more flexible, and we have a lot more freedom to try different things. I would definitely say just test the norm. If you hear someone say that this isn't going to work, maybe that's a flag for you to say go in that direction. Everyone made fun of me on Snapchat when I got on 3-4 years ago, but then I started selling homes on there. Everyone started making fun of me on TikTok, but I'm starting to build relationships on there, right? Like anytime this group of people, and this isn't real estate and outside of real estate, say don't do something because you just nod your head, turn around and go in that direction, because this is very much a think game. And if their mindset is in that, perfect. That's allowing you to have more opportunity to take up more market share and mind share of the future clients that you're going to have. So I would say don't follow the norm. Go the other way.
Yeah, like be a contrarian in ways. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. That's very powerful. I'm with you. I know what you mean. And there are a few people I know personally who have expressed their interest. They reach out and say, hey, I really enjoyed that real estate episode you did, and here's why. One of them I had Graham Stephan on. He's a YouTuber, and he's had a lot of experience in real estate as a broker, and I think he's in the Beverly Hills area, so really bougie stuff. And he's also started with his own house hack, got a duplex, and he still lives in it to this day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, just keeping his cost of living low and keeping the cash flow up. Can you share with somebody who's listening and says, yes, I've decided on real estate as my out, quote unquote, if and when I decide I want that out of my full-time gig, even if they love their full-time gig? Can you walk us through some good first steps for that person? Yeah.
So do you mean in sales or investing?
So investing, on the side of investing.
Okay. House hacking is, like what you just said, is a great way, which is where it'd be a duplex or even more, but you're living in one of the units while you're renting out the others. And for especially it sounds like for your friend, for a lot of people right there, that the person who's paying the rent is covering up to, if not the mortgage of that unit that you guys are living in. Right. So that's a great way to start investing, because you know dang well that you won't be living there forever. And then when you move out, that opens up a new unit that you can put on long term, which is like, 12-month lease, or you can do short term, which is like Airbnb stuff. And for us, that's been killer for us. So that's that's a great introduction. Also,
pause real quick. I want to pause this. If you're listening to this and you're thinking any reasons or excuses, valid reasons, that that doesn't make sense for you, just open your ears and listen and be open to hearing what Ruben has to say here, because this could and will change your life if you decide to implement it. Listen without judgment for the next couple minutes and hear what he has to say here, because it may just be something that could change everything for your future, especially financially. Go ahead, Ruben.
You're good. So, that's a great move, right? Because you're going in with the mind that this is a long-term play. So, if you look at flipping as an investment, that's, there's capital that you have to put up front to make sure that deal works. With the house hack, man, you are living there. Like, this is something that you could push off for 2-3 years. It's what I did with my first house. I lived in it. And then when I moved out, I rented it out. So that's an easy way to start getting in the game. If your credit score I'm really starting to think like brand new people to investing. If your credit score isn't there,
what number?
It depends on the lender that you use, but normal, you'll see 640 is like the lowest people will go. But then you'll talk to other lenders and like, dude, I got you. We'll do 520. So it really depends on the mortgage professional that you're going to chat with when it comes to that. But we've even started looking at, because I'll tell you what, man, last year we couldn't get a loan because I screwed up. I wrote off way too much. It made it look like I didn't make any money, right? And we couldn't get a loan to put in our next real estate investment. So you know what? We didn't find that to be an excuse. And maybe this is for new time investors as well. What would it look like if you got an RV, right? And the RV was $20,000, $30,000. Now just go with me through this. You can get a loan for an RV for like a 20, 30-year note. That's crazy. And then especially if you're looking at a $20,000, $30,000 investment, dude, if you look at a $20,000, $30,000 home, that's like a super foreclosure. Like there's a lot of equity in that. We were wondering, dude, if we buy an RV and we rent that thing out, that's going to make us money. But if you're looking at a new time investor, what does it look like for you to get an RV and live in it? If you could do that and you could simplify your life and not spend money on crap you don't need to be spending your money on, if you really want this, if your why is bigger than your how, what would it look like? You live in an RV for a little while, and then you rent that bad boy out when you have the credit score up, when you do have the mortgage to go into a home. Then you can rent, dude. You could put an RV on Airbnb. You could put an RV on some of these. Like no, I'm trying to not cuss.
Yeah, I've literally done this. Not done it, but I've actually gone to somebody's house in San Francisco, and they had an RV in the parking lot of their small house in California, and it was on Airbnb. So this is real.
Yeah, and it's cash flow. So this is why we had to get creative and say, okay, we can't get a loan for a home. Can we get a loan for an RV? And we started looking at that. April 1st this year, we're going to put our first RV in a backyard of our already existing Airbnb, and we're going to Airbnb it out. And by the way, the clients are going to pay for us to pull it off the lot and use it 2-3 weeks out of the year. But I say all that to say, like, if it's not a home that you can get, there are ways that you can get into the real estate game, but you have to expand your mind to the fact that it can happen, and then start asking yourself the question, who do I need to talk to make sure this happens? Who do I need to become to make sure that this happens? And how do I ensure that this happens? But there are very creative ways to get into real estate investing. If you can get a mortgage, house hacking, at least what I've seen, has been a simple way to get into real estate investing. Even if it's a single family home, get in there, just live in it for a little while. Just live in it. Eventually you will move. You'll start making more money to the business or the workplace that you're at, or whatever that looks like. And eventually you move, you turn that into a rental. If it's not that, get a freaking RV, man. Do something. Record the whole thing. Put stories on Instagram. Put it on YouTube. You don't know. You can monetize your story on starting from the ground up of what it looked like for you to get an RV and start this real estate game, and then fast forward 5-6 years and go back and look at what you've created. You can go back and look at the documentary of you going through that, and tell your story. Find a reason on how you can invest. And for that, it could be RVs, man. It could be RVs. I had no idea you could get a loan for 20 to 30 years.
Mm-hmm. People, Ruben, I'm listening to podcasts. I'm jumping onto the on the interwebs. I'm learning. I'm trying to find out what's their first step. Should they reach out to a lender right away? Should they reach out to a real estate agent? House hacking, I think the real power in house hacking lies not just in, you actually make some cash flow, meaning you make net money on top of all of your expenses for the property, like mortgage, insurance, all of that. Then maybe you end up with, because of the rent payments, you end up with $100 to $500 more. That's phenomenal. Not only that money, but you're saving the money that you would have spent on cost of living your place. So if you spend $1,000 to $1,500 on an apartment right now, imagine not having to spend that $1,000 to $1,500. Plus, if you make some net cash flow, great. And by the way, you don't have to stay there more than a year if you don't want to. So
that's right.
So many different positives to that. What are the next steps for somebody who's, all right, let's do this. It's 2020.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, and you have someone else paying down your mortgage, not necessarily you. And then you also have all the tax benefits, the appreciation, the depreciation of like that property and everything else. Like it becomes an investment to where you can write off a lot, to where there's a lot of tax benefits as well on that property. So that's going to help with your tax situation. For the person who says, hey, 2020 is my year, is that what you were saying with the investment side?
Yes.
Okay. So for me, what I had to do was I had to start surrounding myself with people who thought different. It all starts with think. And when I started to align myself with people who thought investing, who thought bigger when it come to investing, I just started picking their brain, asking questions, shadowing them, following them, watching them how they did it. And honestly, it starts giving you a little bit more confidence to move forward. But here's the deal. You have to find a line where you actually take action, even if you mess it up. Because the person that you're shadowing, the person who is in that investing, they will not have you follow them around forever just because you hope that you get into investing, right? Like, you got to end up taking action on that. And that's what I did. And I'm obviously still in relationship with all these investing people, because I'm not just someone who follows. I'm someone who listens, who learns, and then takes action. And that's the person you have to be. But I would say first, start surrounding yourself with people who are in that game right now. Second, take action, because if not, you will find yourself out of that circle very quickly.
Okay, so what does that look like? Should they be going to open houses? Should they be reading books? Should they be scheduling conversations with agents?
All that. Again, if your why is bigger than your how, you're going to do all of it. While you're driving to go to a real estate investment meetup, because every market has them, when you're driving to the real estate investment meetup, you should be listening to a podcast. You should be listening to a book. You should be listening to Bigger Pockets, right? Like, feed your mind. What you focus on expands. So, dude, could you imagine the whole time you're awake and not sleeping, the whole time you're awake, you're focused on real estate investing? That will start expanding in your life. So, yeah, listen to it while you go to that real estate meetup.
What you focus on expands, and what you ignore just goes away, basically. 100%.
Look at your calendar. This is what I've done, and start filling in all the white gaps, or what we call white spots, right?
Oh, I like that.
Yep. And 100%, man, do that every single week. Like, you better be filling up your calendar at least from 8 to 5, or if you're working during that time, then from 5 to 8. Or listen, don't give me the excuse you don't have time if you're not scaling your own time with your calendar. So make sure that if you got weekends off, cool. I'm driving to this real estate investment meetup while I'm listening to investing. I'm meeting people. I'm networking. Every time I go to a convention, every time I go to a meetup, I put a number in my head of how many people I'm going to talk to and get their name and number. So it could be 5. So when you go into that, make sure you make a goal of how many people you're going to chat with and what you want to get out of this. Don't just show up just to show up, right? I'm going to talk to 5 people, and I want to learn more about house hacking. Be intentional the whole time. So you do that, you get the 5 numbers, you do the house hacking thing, right? You're driving away, but you're driving away to 2 open houses in the area. While you're driving, you're listening to more podcasts. Now you meet this person. Hey, you're going to get their name and number. By the way, they're going to be glad to give you their name and number if they're real estate agents. So you're going to go in there, you're going to get their name and number, and you're going to say, hey, real quick, do you know anything about real estate investing? They're going to say 1 or 2 things, yes or no. If it's no, then you say, hey, there's a real estate meetup at this time. If you're ever interested, would love to see you out there. Boom, you just added value to them. If it's yes, then it's like, hey, man, I'm really looking to do this. Just came back from a real estate meetup. Who do I need to know that could help me in my path to becoming a better investor, a more informed investor? This is how these doors start opening up. But life only rewards you with you taking action on going towards what you want to accomplish. But you got to open up those questions. You got to open up those conversations. You got to be intentional. You got to fill in that white space within your calendar. And that's how you do it, man. It's an everyday consistency compounds type of action towards what you want to do.
Kind of letting that soak in a little bit.
Yeah, it's true, man. But keep going back to it. Your why has to be bigger than your how. Because I'll do workshops. And one guy, man, I was talking about the calendar, and he was like, yeah, I don't have a calendar. Yeah, I don't know how to set it up. Yeah, but something always happens. And I was like, here's the deal, dude. You keep giving me excuses, then there's no point for you to be in this room.
Facts.
Walk out. Walk out. You've already decided you don't want to do it.
Right.
No, you got it. But his why wasn't bigger than his how. He was comfortable somewhere, right? He was comfortable. And how he does it is how he does it and how he'll always do it. Fine. You are now in a position of stagnation, and there's no growth in that, and you do not belong in this room. Your why has to be bigger than your how, man. You got to show up and make sure that works every single day.
If all you heard was that last 3 minutes, you just got more than enough to run with from this interview.
And then you won't need us.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, yeah. Won't
need us, man.
Exactly.
That's all it takes. It's hard work. Dude, you know how many people I've met that are like super talented, and I'm like slapping them in the head because I need them to use that talent. I want to see them succeed, and I pass them every single time. I pass them because I am a wolf. I show up and I take action every single day. It's small. It's big. Like, it doesn't even matter. Within that day, I'm going to take more action than talent does. My brain is super small, but I for whatever reason, I pass people, and it's only because I'm taking action every single day. And I'm being purposeful within the time that I've allocated to do whatever that I've put into place. Like I said, if you go to one of those conventions, put a goal in mind. This is how many people I'm going to reach out to. This is how many name and numbers I need. This is what I need out of this. That is the biggest thing, man. Just hard freaking work every day. Every day. It beats talent every time.
Why?
Because at least this is what I've seen. Back in the day, man, there was this kid. He was like super talented. And I saw it at a young age. Super talented. The way he wrote music, crazy, crazy, crazy talented. But he already knew he was good to where there was no drive there was no drive in him to be better or to expose himself to more because he felt he already made it. And maybe sometimes talent does that to people, right? They've already hung their hat on that position that they're in, that they've already got it. When someone like me could do 80% of what they've done, but I've talked to more people in that industry. I've made more relationships in that industry. I've opened more doors in that industry, and all they needed to see was 80%. While that person stuck at 100% but stayed on level 1. Right? Like for whatever reason, I don't have to be as good as you on the talent side. All I need to do is show up every single day, knock on more doors, talk to more people, give value to more people, and I will surpass you. And I will never have as much talent.
100%. Consistency over everything, pretty much. All right, man. So this is really taking a rocket ship to the moon right now, this interview. So I want to keep this energy up, man. And
let's go.
For those listening who are interested to hear a brief story about an early win that you had in real estate, and that win could be a lesson that you learned the hard way after overcoming a failure, what would one of those be?
My first contract, that was pretty cool. That's just, I guess everybody loves that. So the firm I was with, they have classes, right? They've got workshops and things you go to learn a little bit more about real estate. And I was asked to teach a class. And I was like, no, sir. I was brand new in the business. I was like, heck no one is going to respect me. I'm not going to know the material. He was like, by the way, these are the best coaches, the best influencers, mentors, the ones who ask you questions, right? And help you realize what you need to know instead of telling you what you need to know, right? And he was like, so let me ask you this. If you were to teach that class, would you study the material? I'm like, dude, yeah, I don't want to look stupid. He's like, oh, okay. And if you were to study the material, would you know it better than you would know it now? And I was like, you turd. So what he wanted me to do was learn the subject, not really teach the class. So, but I have to teach the class. And what he did, he taught me something super powerful, which is now what I teach my people, what I push to people is run a PC. Run a PC. So if you ever say that you want to do something, you have to run a PC. The P is a promise, which in that moment I made a promise to him that I was going to teach the class. But you got to make a promise to someone who's going to hold you accountable, not someone who's going to be like, don't worry about it, dude. It's raining outside. Why would you go outside? Like you need someone who's like, oh, it's rain. You think water's going to hurt you? 90% plus of your body's made out of water. And you're going to give me that excuse, right? Like that's the person you need to make a promise to. The C is commitment or calendar, same thing. So in that moment, you have to say when you're going to get it done by. So you made the promise to someone, and then you're going to say, it's going to happen by whatever. And for this class, it was already on the calendar. I made the promise to him, and I had to figure it all out by X date. And then it builds in pressure. It builds in stress, which is great, right? Because it pushes you to accomplish a lot more in a short amount of time. That was a huge win for me in real estate and outside of real estate, just being a more intentional person. I went into that class. I taught that class. I was nervous, but I taught it. There was a guy in that class so I'm in Fort Bragg, right? Fort Bragg, Fayetteville. And this is the home of like the special operations. And there was a special forces guy in there. And to get him at the end of class to say that I did a great job, because like SF and like Top 82nd and some other military units that are here, like there's a lot of respect to go to these guys. And for him to come after class and tell me that, like, meant the world. But he said, I screwed up in one place. And I was like, oh, Lord, what was that? Because that's the only thing we hear, right? And he was like, you said in the beginning that this was your first time teaching a class, so you apologize if it comes off the wrong way. He was like, dude, if you would have never said that, we would have never known that was your first class.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? So now I never say that, right? But the biggest lesson that I learned there was to make a promise to someone. It's okay to feel the pressure. It's healthy to be stressed in that moment, and make a commitment on when you're going to get it done by. And for me, that's all. It's stuck that day, and it's stuck forever. And that's what I hold people accountable to too. If they make a promise to me, I'm like, great. When are we going to get it done by? They're like, oh, the weekend. I'm like, cool. If you were to choose a day within the weekend, which day would it be? Oh, Saturday. Oh, great. So what time? Very specific on when you said you're going to get it done by. And don't make a promise to me and not get it done. What's the point? So you've now destroyed this relationship.
Man, that's powerful stuff. I think accountability is huge. And one of my questions going off of that, with what you're sharing about holding people accountable, there is no room for, I love this concept. There is literally no room for excuses. And it's not to say that you're inadequate or not worthy of respect. It's to say you're so capable of so much more. And I see that in you, that I'm not going to tolerate less than your best from you because I care about you. So when you have that shift, that's excellence, I think, where I didn't learn about. So I'll give you an example. I went to one of my first jobs in this area a few years back was when years ago was when I went to I was a chiropractic assistant, and I had been studying like healthcare and things like that. So it was a decent entry level position for me into that industry. And I was at a seminar with all these other doctors, and because of the wellness center that I work for, they wanted me to take on some of the responsibilities of the actual doctors, except for the adjustments. So they wanted me to do the interviewing and the reports with new patients and tell them why they need to come see us and sell them on the package and all that stuff. And so I had to do the seminar with the doctors. So people thought I was like an actual doctor of chiropractic at the seminar, because all the assistants went out and did their like meeting of that room is like where all the assistants go and do, learn how to talk to people on the phone, whatever. But I was in the room with the doctors, and people would see me, I was probably one of the youngest people there, and they'd be like, oh, like what school did you go to? Did you go to this one in Florida? And I was like, oh, I'm not a doctor. I'm actually a chiropractic assistant. And people would just be like, oh, okay, all right. No one really understood. The team that was running the seminar was so committed to excellence that when it came time for me, we were all split up into subgroups. It came time for me to share, came time for me to practice role play of a new patient with me, telling them why they need to come and see us. The leader of the subgroup that I was in was really direct, and he was intimidating. He was very, no patience for any wimpiness at all. So it came to be my turn, and I messed up, and I like hedged, and I was trying to be like, oh, take it easy on me, like I'm new at this. And he just kind of looked at me, and I remember that feeling. I remember that moment and that feeling of like, what's this guy's problem? Didn't he just hear what I said? I'm not ready for this. I'm scared. I'm not capable of this yet. Like let me try again. That's that nice mentality of, yeah, practice is great. What he was doing, I think, it came across so harsh in the moment, but years later, when I look back at that, I recognize that he was so annoyed probably that I was trying to hedge my performance ahead of time by saying that. He was probably just like, dude, just do it. You can do it, and you should do it. You don't need to hedge your ego or whatever, or explain yourself, What do you think about that?
So I don't know if he was annoyed. I think if he were to smile, I think if he were to nod his head, I think if he were to wink, I think if he were to say anything that acknowledged that to be okay, you would have felt like it was okay. So I don't know if he was annoyed. I think he was disciplined on not to move and just stare at you like, all right, next. Just keep going.
Exactly. That's well said.
100%. That's huge. I once told, this is why you should surround yourself with big thinkers, right? People who keep you uncomfortable. Dude, when you walk into a room and you're intimidated, good for you. You're in the right spot, right? Yeah. So like, I told this guy my goals. This was 3-4 years ago. And I laughed when I said it. I was like, yeah, I just want to, do this, and I want to have that, You
didn't have the conviction?
No, exact, dude. I guess subconscious, I didn't really believe it. And he just stared at me. And then I got done like doing my little ridiculous giggle. And he was like, why did you laugh? Dead straight face. And my whole body just like slumped over, and I was like, because I knew why I laughed. Everyone knew why I laughed. I didn't believe it. And so now when I say something, there's no laugh behind it. It is what it is, and it's going to happen. Believe it or not, be on my side or not, it's going to happen. That was a huge lesson for me. You know, don't allow that person inside you that wants to keep you safe do these little subconscious things to make you feel comfortable with maybe not accepting that in your life. And he sure isn't accepting it. He just stared at me and was like,
call me out on it.
Yep, shift my thinking. Got it. Yes, sir. We'll do that now. So I think that's where that comes from, is the same guy who did that to you. That's just, they're in that position. They've been in that position, and they're not going to allow you to cop out.
Yeah, that's
because
powerful.
You're better than that.
Man, that's a great example. There was a Ray Lewis video I was watching, and in the video, there was like a clip from a game that he played back in the day. For anyone who doesn't know Ray Lewis, he's a Hall of Famer football player. Baltimore Ravens is where he really created his legacy. He came back to the huddle and he was screaming at the guys, there ain't no time to come back to the huddle and say, my bad, man. There ain't no time for that. And I was like, I get it. Like, I get it. Because someone, if you're not committed to excellence, you might be like, geez, relax, dude. Like, we're doing our best. It's like, no, there's no time for that. And I love that he said there's no time for that, because he wasn't saying he didn't acknowledge the apology. He was just saying, move on. Like, get over it. Let's go.
Yep.
Like, you know?
Yep, 100%.
In conclusion of the interview, man, I love to ask people the heart healthy hustle round. You mentioned, seasons of your life where you're sleeping 2-3 hours, and maybe you're sleeping in once every week. I don't know, but let's jump into the heart healthy hustle round so that we can kind of gauge how you stay grounded through all this action taking.
Yep.
First category is heart. What activity do you use, if any, to care for and strengthen your internal character?
Okay. So I do take one day out of the month where I call it my day, why day, which is a day that I focus on me, basically like just a recharge button. I do this for my clients too. Like, they have to block, you have to put this on your calendar, and you have to respect it. Like, you got to treat it like your castle. You have to blame yourself if you lower the bridge. Like, if you have a moat around your castle, you're the one lowering the bridge to allow people to interrupt that time. So you have to really protect that day or that time that you blocked out. But for my day, why day, I just do me. I still work out in the morning. I think that helps out a lot. And then I don't necessarily really truly get dressed for the day. I'll wear whatever I want. And I will, most of the time, I'll work on the business instead of in it. And for me, that is like, it helps me think bigger, not have the pressure of like appointments or anything coming up, and just be free. And I do that once a month. I will say I'm very wired to just go.
Yeah.
But I crash, man. About twice a month, I'll come home and I'll just like, my body is like exhausted and not even meaning to, man. Like, if I could, I'd be like, body, shut up.
Yeah.
You don't have time for this. Like, can we just move? But my eyes, and like, I just feel it, and I'll lay on the couch and the wife's like, here it comes. And then I'm done. I'm out. You can't move me. There's no like old school, like mama bear moving you to the bedroom. Like, no, I am done. My body is shut down and I'm out. And that happens about twice a month, man, where it just stops. But it helps. Like, for whatever reason, that's how my body works. Everybody's different. And the next day I'm like, yeah, whoa, hey, and I got another 20 days in me,
Yeah. Let's transition that into the health topic. How do you maintain your physical health and avoid burning out? It sounds like you kind of just fizzle and then come back.
Yeah. So I'm okay, dude. I've been told my whole, I guess, my real estate career, I'm going to burn out. If you go down to my Instagram, like scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see those late nights. And I think I even posted a video where I recorded someone where someone was like truly caring for me. I was like, dude, slow down, please. You're going to burn out. It's a real thing. And I've had people like send me pictures of candles burning on both sides. And like, and I'm like, dude, all right, you convince yourself of that. Don't convince me of that. Like, no, I got this. Move out of my way. I don't, dude. I don't, man. Like, that's something I've been told a lot. I only quote unquote burnout twice a month, but it's a health, for me, it works. It's a healthy burnout for me. All right. So I'll kind of just move that out of the way. If I look at what I do to kind of keep it up, I was not raised in a family where health was a thing. If you had food on the table, you eat that. It didn't matter what it was that was in front of you. You ate it. You didn't complain about it. You just ate it. You were thankful we had food. So growing up and having my first daughter, I started to realize I felt bad putting like stuff in front of her that maybe won't energize her or treat her body like it should. And then you're reading all these books and all these people are saying, eat healthy, exercise. And so it started to like resonate with me. So now that's what I do, man. It rolls into my daily routine. If you ask anybody around me what I eat, they're all going to say the same thing because I almost eat the same thing every day. I eat a wrap with turkey meat or chicken with spinach and cheese. And I roll that wrap up and I eat 2 of those a day along with a sweet potato, another piece of chicken or turkey, 2 protein drinks because I do work out in the morning, and fruit. And that's my routine every day because I don't have to think about what I'm going to eat. It's got everything I need for the day, and it keeps me in a position to not get unfocused of what I need to eat because I didn't pack for the day and now I have to go out to a restaurant or something like that. So I will say that food has helped me become the person I need to be for the day, for the week, and for my life. I do still eat like crap sometimes, but it's not a thing, right?
So,
like it happens.
It's not optional if it's going to be slowing you down.
100%. What? That doesn't make any sense, does it?
No. And I had a friend, it was actually a past guest, Nicholas. He said, I was asking him about health. He said, when he eats, he said he just doesn't eat the crappy food. So for example, if you didn't have time to plan it, so what he'll do is he just won't eat. So for me, that's one area I've been trying to work on, which is, all right, I didn't have time, or I didn't make the time to prepare for today's food. So I'm just going to do this because it's presented in front of me. He will not eat that. He will just look at it and say, I don't deserve to eat because I didn't prepare a healthy meal that will help increase my well-being. He just skips it.
That's extreme ownership, man. And I love that.
One of the things you mentioned about burnout that I want to share with you, you didn't ask, so don't take this the wrong way, but I want to share with you. I've had family members decline in health in their later years due to Alzheimer's or dementia. And so I've researched it a little bit, and one of the things is fruit is very important. So high antioxidant fruits actually help to decrease free radicals. If you want to picture what a free radical is, it is a destructive, essentially, think of it like an asteroid that goes through the neurons in your brain and just shreds the side of the cell wall and creates damage. Yeah, it creates damage. So what antioxidants do is it basically neutralizes, long story short, the free radicals. Free radicals can expedite mental acuity or competence. I don't know how you would explain it. Not mental health, your actual brain power and thinking clearly. That can be declined more rapidly and scientifically has been shown that it will when you're not sleeping enough and when you're not eating healthy, because those free radicals create brain damage, quite literally. And like you said, the compound effect over time. One of the reasons I do this show is to bring light to those things and to try to find ways and areas of kind of hacking any susceptibilities and work on those gears in there right now, especially for the young professional. You're 34 years old. You have a lot of years ahead of you to capitalize on that future self coming and looking at you present day and saying, Ruben, thank you so much for, eating that fruit, whether it was blueberries, whatever, because now I have another 10 years of sharp thinking where I can really enjoy reaping what I've sown all my life, so working so hard. So that's why I really do this show, is one to maintain the momentum, inertia, and really carry that forward and carry others with you and push others up and kind of share that journey. And then 2, find ways to not only do that, but keep it consistent for the long game. And one of the biggest things that sleep does is, on a scientific level, I think it's called CNS fluid. I don't know if it's cerebrospinal fluid, but think of your brain is literally floating in your skull. The way things get around, like nutrients in your brain, and when we think, it's literally creating, I like simple analogies, so a car creates exhaust. So our brains literally create exhaust through expelling this, whatever this exhaust is. So when we sleep though, when you sleep, it actually refreshes and filters out that fluid. So it clears out the plaque, quite literally. So when you're talking about compound effect, you're talking about all that. That does end up building up over time, and that's one of the reasons why I know sleep to be so powerful, and it's so challenging because it's one of those things, right? We spend almost a third of our life sleeping, and it's just tough to accept that that is a necessary reality. Now, do I think seasonal? For me, I'm all about, taking seasons of courage and going hard and all that. But in terms of the long game, man, I would definitely challenge you and anyone listening, and this is as much for me, to really focus in on how to capitalize on deep, healthy sleep and consistent scheduling of that sleep. That can really help leverage your mental health in the long game. That sleep goes in and literally will empty out that plaque from the exhaust from the day. And when you're going as hard as you're going, that is something to consider on a scientific level.
100%.
Hustle, what's your main motivation for doing what you do?
I got tested on this last year. I went to a Grant Cardone event in Miami. I put myself in a situation where I was challenged by some pretty powerful people. And one of the things they asked was, because I told them the business, what I do and all that. And they were like, that's cool. Yeah. Okay, so what happens if you're on your plane on the way home and the plane goes down and you die? What happens to your family? What happens to the income you're bringing in? And I'm just sitting there like, oh, crap, which really did show me that my business is very, very, was very, very active. And I was being selfish to think that I was going to live forever, or at least have enough time in life where I'm always creating income for the family, when we don't know that. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, the day after. So I've my mantra last year and definitely 100% has transformed the business, and definitely pushing into 2020 is what happens when I die. The chick I brought on board 4 months ago, which we no longer work together, but I will say like 4 months ago, she was a killer. She was a rock star and still is. I told her every time she asked me a question, I would start off with saying, I'm dead. Right? So what it did was teach her how to think, teach her how to problem solve without me. What do we need to do? How does this thing need to be built without me? I'm dead.
Wow.
And so we've created the sales side, real estate sales side, which was very active, right? You're showing homes, you're doing the listing, whatever.
Yeah.
How to push a few buttons for a few hours a day, but make income doing it by sending what we have now 3 agents in the field that are closing deals for us, but doing it in a way where we don't have liability and we don't have overhead. Like, what the hell does that even look like? So we've created a whole new way of a real estate business. Now the wife can come in, hit a few buttons for a few hours, and execute this thing to make a good income on just that side. The real estate investing is obviously passive. The way we built it, we put managers involved, like we're good there. And the consulting side, that was my bread maker, right? But now what I'm doing is scaling out of consulting because it's very active, right?
Yeah, you have to be there.
You got to be there. You got to hear the challenges. What's the next step? Who are we hiring? Who are we firing? What's the next level? What ceiling do we need to break? Like everything. So that's my why. How do I build this thing as if I'm dead? How do I build it where it keeps moving forward when I'm dead?
Why do you want to build it like that?
Because my wife she quit her job as a teacher about a year and a half ago, and I have 2 daughters, right? So the income coming into the house is legit me right now. Now the wife does staging and stages Airbnbs, but it's not at the level that we need to sustain what we have, right? Only what I'm doing right now is really doing that. So for me to think that I will be here even in 2021, because we don't know what's going to happen, right? Like, who the hell would have called out Kobe, right, a few weeks ago?
It's so crazy.
Right? Nobody. So what happens, but you got to look at that and be like, okay, so what if that happens to me? How is my business operating right now? Is it 100% me? Is it 90% me? We need to scale back to where my business is 10% me, right? And 80% systems and 80% people that aren't me that execute to make sure income's still coming in. So that's been crazy focus for me and why I'm spending a lot of time on it and building it out. but it's been a game changer of thought. And here's the cool thing. What if I don't die? Right? Like, I built a pretty cool system to kick off cash and passive income.
There you go.
I was just going to say, to kind of live it up. And I was telling someone else, I was like, all it's going to do is free up more time for me to take up more risk, to go out there and take more risk, to impact more people, to take up more space. It's going to free up more time for me to do that.
Isn't that funny? Isn't that so funny? You ever think about that when you're talking to someone? Maybe you meet someone and you're talking about a deal or an optional potential thing you're going to do together. And in the back of your mind, he doesn't know that you're thinking from that place. Like, I might not be here next year, so this is how I operate. And isn't it so funny how we walk around with all this stuff in the background, and it's really what drives us? And it's just fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, dude. Exactly. And if you could help someone tap into that and help them get closer to that person will be loyal to you forever. And it's sometimes not about money. I think we all assume that it is. And sometimes it's something totally different, but you've got to ask enough questions to try to figure out what that is to help them get to that position.
Ruben, what is your wife and your 2 daughters' names?
So Amanda, wife. Arlie, 1-year-old, Arlee. Mariah, 14-year-old.
Awesome, man. I'm sure they're really proud of you and everything you've been doing, no doubt. Can you share with us, you're big on systems. Can you share with us a few of your most influential books? And if one of those is on system building, please share it.
Number 1, I think, was a game changer for me because so do you know the DISC assessment?
No.
All right, there's a DISC assessment. If you go on TonyRobbins.com/U, the letter U, and then E, and then / you can take the DISC assessment for free. It's going to tell you kind of your personal assessment. For me, I'm a high I, which is, yes, I'm high energy, but I also want everybody to like me. And that could be challenging in a leadership position. So when I was CEO of the office with 120, 130 agents or whatever, I wanted all of them to like me. And that's not a real thing, not if you're a leader. And I needed something to change my mindset on that. And this is the book that I'm going into. The book was Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. That book right there, man, like, to take ownership of everything that goes on in your life, the way that you need to move forward in missions so that it impacts the people overall and not just a small few, was for me a game changer. And I bring it up probably 1 out of 5 conversations I have, because it keeps me in check, that it's all on me. This is all on me. Everything's my fault. Everything. So that also gives me the opportunity to change it. And that's also where I got don't complain about what you tolerate, right? And setting standards in businesses, setting standards in your relationships, setting standards in your family, setting standards in everything. And if you allow someone to break that standard, it's not them who's created the substandard. It's you who's created the substandard now for your life, for your business. And just, man, that book, dude, he spoke to me, man. And so for me, that book's been killer. It's been amazing for me.
Extreme Ownership. Do you use any software do you have a favorite app, tech tool, or project management software that you leverage?
2 things. Number 1, calendar, free, Google. The biggest thing you could do, first plug in your priorities. And that could be anything, right? Like, just God, if God's in your life, family time, date nights, hobbies, vacations, all this stuff that people don't really put in first, right? Like, people think business first. No. Your priorities are the people who love you, trust you, right? All that first. Plug that in first. And then your business activities, the business building activities and the business servicing activities. It comes afterwards. You will have time for it if you just use the calendar the right way. That is my best system I have. I love it to death. The second one is definitely my CRM or my database, which is LionDesk. It's very specific to real estate. So it starts off at $25 a month, super cheap. And I get crazy dividends out of there because it keeps me on top of building these relationships. Yeah, just be in front of mind of people. Those 2 systems right there, if you combine them, is $25 investment a month.
Talk about an ROI.
Exactly, dude. We overcomplicate this. A lot of people overcomplicate it. It can't be this easy. It is this easy. Yeah.
Well, this interview has been amazing. You absolutely crushed it. This was a lot of fun, high energy. I know it's got a lot of people thinking about a whole lot of stuff. And it was also tactical too. So I really appreciate you coming on. Just want to acknowledge you for your hustle, your drive, and for all the people you're inspiring along the way. Keep up the awesome work. I know a lot of people, who are committed to excellence are not seen as people who need affirmation or even maybe want it. But I definitely want to acknowledge you, brother. You've been crushing it, and I only just met you, so I can't imagine how much of an impact you must be having on those in your actual personal life. I want to ask you, man, if you could go back in time, what would you tell your younger self? If you could go picture this, your younger self is overlooking a body of water. Maybe it's a lake. You're at a park, wherever. You're sitting on a bench. You're just kind of going through a real dark season in life. Maybe you're not sure what's going to happen with income. Maybe you're not sure what's going to happen with family. Who knows? But a dark season in your life, you could be early 20s, anytime really that you can think of. If present day Ruben could go up to him, put his arm around your own shoulder, using the word you, what would you say?
Probably two things. One is change your environment. The people I hung out with at that age was like, not all of them, but a good majority of them, you just wanted that. You got to be careful who you surround yourself with, right? So like change your environment. I can give anybody all the strategy in the world, like to become a billionaire, but if they haven't changed the way they think, there's not much more I could do, right?
So before we go, how can the audience keep up with you on Instagram? You're on LinkedIn, Instagram. Where do you want people to follow you, and how can they help?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was going to say this real quick, dude. If you love this, and you want to do this again, I'm always down for round 2, just saying. But yeah, if you want to, hit me up. Actually, not if you want to, you should. I want to connect with you. I want you to message me. I want you to know what you've not only learned, but you're going to actually take action on. If you got questions, if you got concerns, if you got comments, whatever, I want to hear them. Hit me up at Proven by Ruben, RUBEN, on Instagram. Right, that's where most of the time I spend my time and I tell my story. But I'm also on Facebook at Proven by Ruben. I'm also on LinkedIn, Proven by Ruben, TikTok, Snapchat, all platforms, Proven by Ruben, YouTube, Proven by Ruben. But I do talk to my people on Instagram. Hit me up in the DM. I'm excited to hear the stories that you guys have.
Is there anything else that you'd like me to have on the show notes?
As long as whoever heard, I just need them to take action. I don't know if there's something you add in the show notes that says like,
live wide open is what I say. I'm right along that.
Then perfect, man, because that's the biggest thing. I just need people to go out there and mess things up, fail. That's what I'm looking for, just action.
Congratulations on making it to the end of this episode. What about this episode stood out to you? Next, I need your help sharing this show. I want this podcast to impact and reach 6,000 people per episode by August 31st, 2019. And I want us to reach 15,000 people per month by March 29th, 2020. Have you been enjoying multiple episodes of The Heart Healthy Hustle? I'm thrilled to share with you an exclusive invitation to join our new Facebook community. To get to know other Heart Healthy Hustlers, simply go to thehearthealthyhustle.com/Facebook, where you can expect to see different members of our community being featured weekly in Facebook Live calls. I appreciate all of your love and support, and I will see you in the next episode. As always, be generous on every occasion. There is a story for you, and live wide open.